ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the final round of the Apex Online Racing IMSA Lights Endurance Series. It's been our very first season of running this series, and we are coming to its conclusion tonight at Daytona International. Made a mess of that one. Daytona International Road Course. This should be a very interesting and hopefully action-packed race. The last race that we had at Road America was a very interesting one in terms of strategy, and this time round the guys are going at it at the speed drome with the oval and the infield section on the inside, so it should prove to be a very entertaining race. Here is the calendar that we have run through for our very first series, or very first season of the IMSA Lights Endurance Series. Obviously, as you can see there, we started at Circuit of the Americas, and then we jumped to Watkins Glen GP, followed by Laguna Seca, before having a break week, before coming back to Long Beach. And then, as I mentioned last week, we were at Road America, and then the final race that we are doing here tonight is at the Daytona International Road Circuit, and as you can see there, it's going to be a 90-minute race as well. So let's take a look at the standings, or well, the results from the previous round in round 5, starting off with the LMP3 class. AD Ace ended up taking the win just by 3.5 seconds or so to Bo in second place. Smolder came home there in third position, with Dow King coming home in fourth. Dow King made his debut in the IMSA Light Series last time round, and he started off pretty good. He was out in the lead for quite a while until it came to the pit stops, and then his strategy kind of fell apart there in the mixed conditions and dropped down the field in the second half of the race. But he managed to get himself back up into fourth, with Bazanchek not too far behind him. Intergalactic Gentleman come home in sixth position. Seventh place was Flaming Parrot. Then eighth place went to Aaron. He didn't quite finish the race. He unfortunately ran out of fuel on that final lap, but because he completed over 90% of the race distance, he does still hold on to that one championship point. It gets assigned to his name. Jay Peaches came home in ninth position, also didn't finish the race. Neither did Scott Burnett, Minisco, or Ruddy Bird. None of those four drivers ended up finishing the race. So the LMP3 Championship ended up to these standings, with AD Ace being crowned the LMP3 class champion. He cannot be touched in this final round, no matter what any of the other drivers do. The only way that you can lose that championship crown if he does something absolutely monumentally catastrophic, or something that gets him banned from AOR, but I very much doubt he'll do that and just race to the end of the checker flag. Smolder is currently holding second, but is only 1 point separated between him and Bo, so the fight for second position in the championship is very much on, and obviously Bo needs to outscore Smolder by 2 points, and if they do ever end up finishing on equal points, Bo will take second place overall, as he does have a race win to his name, whereas Smolder does not. Smolder's best finishing position in this season was second place, which he's got 2 of. Bo's got 1 race win, 2 second positions as well. So Bo will take favourite over that if they do finish on equal points, but obviously they got 90 minutes to duel it out. Bazanchek is there currently in 4th position, with Ruddy Bird just 2 points behind him, and then a further 7 points is Marco the Pirate, currently P6 in the championship standings for the LMP3 class. Jeremy there in 7th, with Flaming Parrot in 8th, Intergalactic Gentleman 9th, Dow King, as you can see, in 10th place. Martinez Maxime is there in 11th, and then Jay Peaches is in 12th place. And then beyond them in 13th, 14th, And 15th positions is Minisco, Aaron, and Andrew Harper. All three of those drivers have 2 points to their names. So that is the LMP3 class championship standings. And here is the GT4 class race results from round 5, with Dakuza taking a crushing win over the rest of the field, deploying a strategy that worked out fantastically well for him, changing to the slick tyres pretty early in the mixed conditions, and was able to extend his lead out to the rest of the drivers whilst they were still driving around on the wet tyres. And then once everyone had served their stops, he had quite a significant lead, which he did continue to extend until the race end. Empower came home in second place, with Scott V not too far behind. First time that Scott hasn't actually won the race. Actually, no, that's a lie. Sorry. In round 2 or 3, he had a second position as well. So yeah, he's obviously done very, very well this season. Scott has been crowned the GT4 class champion, which we'll see in a minute. His teammate Andrex is there in 4th position, with Pushdom coming home in 5th place. Gav was a newcomer to last round as well, and he managed to grab P6 with P7 going to TPW. Marauder taking 8th, with Nyla in 9th position, Brake Check in 10th, and then Carlito was the last GT4 driver to come across the line in P11. And then this is how the GT4 championship standings currently are going into this round. And as you can see, Scott V up there at the top with 75 points. He has been classed the GT4 champion, as I mentioned. He is 25 points clear of Dakuza in second place, so Scott cannot be touched this round. And it's just going to be a battle between Dakuza and Empower for that second position in the championship, with Empower trailing Dakuza by 8 points currently, which means that if Empower was to win the race this time round, Dakuza would need to be in 5th position or lower in order for Empower to take that second position. As actually no, both drivers have got a race win, and actually Dakuza has 2 second place finishes to his name in comparison to Empower's 1. So even if they finish on equal points, the second place will be going to Dakuza. So Empower does need to basically make sure that he finishes in a position far enough ahead so that he extends his points lead over him at the end of this round. Andrex is currently holding 4th position in the championship, only 2 points behind Empower, and Marauder is hot on his heels as well, only another 2 points behind. Brake Check is currently holding P6, and then you can see that Nyla is there just 5 points behind Brake Check. Colonel McCoy is currently holding P8. And then the 2 GTS boys, Pushdom and Carlito, in P9 and P10 respectively. And then TPW just 2 points behind them, with Milo 7 points further down the field. And then after Milo, only one other driver in the GT4 class, actually sorry, 2 drivers in the GT4 class, Gav and David Simon, have points to their name, and none of the other drivers who have participated in the season in the GT4 class have any points. So that is the current standings that we have here, with, well, going into the final round of the season. We're just currently waiting for the lobby to actually get underway and go into the actual qualifying session that we shall be doing here. And that will be with both cars, or both classes of car, out on the circuit at the same time. So the guys will need to find the space in the traffic in order to get their laps in and try and qualify as best as they possibly can to be in the prime position on the grid for the beginning of the race, where we'll be doing 2 formation laps. We'll be doing a in-game formation lap, and then we'll be doing the AOR formation lap, the manual formation lap that we usually do following on from that, and then we'll be going racing with. By the time we've done those, it'll probably be about 85 minutes worth of pure green flag racing action. So hopefully the guys will provide an entertaining race for us. We are just loading into the lobby now, so we'll be kicking off relatively soon with the actual session. And as you can see, it is a nighttime session. The guys will be driving, or well, the qualifying session does begin at 8 PM in the evening, and then the race session will begin at 9 o'clock. Fortunately for these guys, they've got clear conditions this time round. Last time round, things were pretty wet and were changing in their conditions. As the driver's now actually coming out onto the circuit, as you can see, the sky is completely pitch black out there. There is no sign of any kind of sunlight. But yeah, last week they had to deal with the changing conditions, where it started off with a wet race, and then the track ended up drying out, and Dakuza's strategy of changing onto the slick tyres as early as he possibly could, not long after the rain actually started, worked out very, very nicely for him. And yeah, he managed to secure that race win in the GT4 class. So there we can see Empire just coming through the picture from that bird's eye view aerial shot. It's just gone through with the LMP3 car following in behind as they come out onto the oval banking section. But yeah, Empire will be looking to try and take that second place in the championship from Dakuza. Although, if I heard correctly, Dakuza had some serious straight line speed coming around and down the start-finish straight. So much so that he is actually quicker in a straight line than the LMP3 cars were capable of. So we'll need to watch out for that BMW, the Ford Mustang Boss that Empire is driving. It's also a very were pretty quick in round 1 at Circuit of the Americas, but Andrex is saying that they're not as fast as either of these two cars. So let's actually go on board with Empire for a lap. This is coming down towards turn 1, braking hard and heavy. It will shift down into second gear. Runs very, very deep though in that first turn before coming through the right and the left shallow chicane there of turn 2, then into the International Horseshoe, turn number 3. We'll use full width of the circuit, running out nice and wide there to the curb before coming through turn 4, otherwise known as the King. And then we'll come into the Western Horseshoe, turn 5, another heavy braking zone. Down into second gear again, Empire using a H shifter, and rather than choosing to shift down the gears individually, he decides to skip gears, as that's the Ace in the LMP3 coming through. So we've just gone through turn 6, now come on to the oval banking into turn 7. For those NASCAR and IndyCar fans, this is obviously turn 1 and going into turn 2 when you're talking about the actual speedway. And then you'll be coming down this back straight here, looking for the start of the Rolex boarding on the right hand side. That'll be your braking point for the bus stop chicane. Chuck it in third gear, try not to take too much curve on the exit that you get hit with a slowdown penalty. It seems like Empire hooked that up rather nicely. The bus stop chicane is turns 8, 9, 10 and 11. We're now into turn 12, as we've got another car coming up round past us. That's Bo in the Ginetto LMP3 car, and Empire be coming across the line on the tri-oval section, and he'll go into a provisional pole P1 with a 152.6. That's what all the other drivers in the GT4 class need to beat, as Empire gets very wobbly that coming through turn 1. It did also have a KTM come out just in front of him as well, coming out of the pit lane. Oh, that's a car on the roof. That's an LMP3 upside down with an awful lot of damage. Not entirely sure who that is. It was Jay Peaches, who we saw in their roof. He was the one who dived to the pit lane there. Currently at the moment in the LMP3 class, Bo is currently holding that P1 position as he's coming out onto the oval section now. You'll see the speed difference between the classes. Bo's continuing to accelerate up through 240, 250 kilometers an hour, as you can see there on the speedo. Bring up the map, we can see where all the cars are actually located around the track. And it's in places like this where the LMP3 has quite a severe speed difference and advantage over the GT4 cars, when they have so much more downforce. They can just carry so much more speed going through that bus stop chicane. That is one of the main contributing factors between the lap time, is their downforce, and of course there's also the power as well. Coming 280 kilometers an hour, just touching before getting hard onto the brakes into turn 1, getting the car slowed down, chucking it in, taking a nice good tight line before coming through that shallow chicane just past the pit exit there. So yeah, Bo at the moment currently holding that P1. Scott is the man who's popped himself up into a provisional pole position for the moment in GT4 class, just ahead of M-Power, only by 0.2 of a second though. With over 0.3 off the back of M-Power is Andrex at the moment, with Kerner McCoy currently in 4th position. Marauder is there in 5th with brake check in 6th. Dakuza is yet to really set a decent lap time. He's currently holding 7th in class with a 155.1, so he's a good 3.5 seconds or so, 3.5 to 4 seconds off of the current poleman's time. He's got quite a lot of damage that we saw just there as he passed through his shot on the front of his car, but that's probably not actually fully 100% representative of the damage that you're seeing on his car. Scott's in a little bit of traffic at the moment. So we've got 8 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. Not entirely sure if that KTM crossbow that is in front of Scott is actually on a hot lap or not. We've also got an LMP3 going through there as well, making it momentarily 3 wide. Now you'll see that typically the LMP3 cars in the oval banking will go up above the GT4 cars, as the GT4 cars, the slower class cars, are instructed to hold their line, as Scott is getting very, very sideways, very committed there into the bus stop chicane. That's obviously going to bail out on his lap, and that is, yeah, Kerner McCoy. I was just about to say his name, as I was guessing, going through the shot. He was following him through. I think Scott's going to go for another run, but he stayed down on the apron to make sure that he stays out of the way. I know he's coming back into the pits to not interfere with, I believe that might be Nyla. It is Nyla, yeah, in the KTM crossbow. And there was also one of the LMP3 drivers pulling into the pits as well. I believe that was Aaron. So Bo is still holding that P1. 1.1 seconds clear at the moment over Bazanchek. Marco the Pirate's currently in a provisional P3. Smolder there in 4th. 8 the Ace currently holding P5. He's full 2 seconds off of Bo at the moment. So I'm not entirely sure whether that's him actually backing off for this round, planning on taking it a little bit easier, or whether he just hasn't been able to put in a properly quick representative lap time as of yet. Hopefully we'll get the sector split from him relatively soon, as it's quite a big lock up there coming into the Western Horseshoe. There you go, so he's 5/10 of a second up on his previous fastest at the moment, so I think it may have just been traffic that was interfering, or some mistakes that has caused him to have some bad laps previously. He's got a bit of clear track in front of him. There is a car further up the road. You can see it up there. I looks like to me at a glance that's an LMP3 car, so that shouldn't interfere with him too much coming into the bus stop. Pretty good line through there, possibly taking a little bit too much curb in turn 10, the last right-hander, and as you saw, that sector split was a second up on his fastest. So we should see the Ace jump up a couple of positions this time round as he's coming to the start-finish line now. And there he goes up into P2. Still a second off of Bo at the moment. With just under 4 minutes left in the session, and ADS has got a little bit of traffic here in front of him. He's got Dakusa coming out of the pit lane. He's got Nyla directly there in front of him in the KTM. Should be able to slip. Ooh, almost. That was very, very close to contact between the two. I was going to say he should be able to slip past him on the exit. Instead, kind of got caught out by how slow the crossbow was coming off of the corner in comparison to the grunt that the LMP3 car that he has underneath him. And there he is going back to the pit lane. So Brzanczyk at the moment still driving around. He's got a bit of space in front of him for a decent lap. 5.5 litres of fuel in the tank, so he'll probably be pressing on, trying to do a sequence of laps to try and improve his lap time. See if he can get closer to Bo, see if he can pop himself up ahead of the Ace. Let's look for a couple of the other guys. So Smolder's still out there on track at the moment. Flaming Parrot has had a spin in turn 1, that is the pit lane exit line that he is currently straddling. Moving the curb out of the way, so at least he's off the actual racing surface, as it were, not interfering with anyone coming into turn 1. Logan's out there on track, the lead coordinator. He's going around, currently holding P7 with Miniscope. Just going to come across the line now. Improves his lap time by 0.05 of a second, but doesn't improve his position. Still needs to find another 2 attempts in order to pop himself up to P7 ahead of Logan. Aaron's there out on track as well. And then Bernetto is the final LMP3 driver. So we don't have Dowking in this race like we did last week. Jay Peaches, sorry, is the final LMP3 driver. He's just come across the line now to set a lap time. Scott is still holding on to his provisional P1. Currently a 10th off of his fastest lap time. His teammate Andrex has currently got second. So I think Andrex may have been telling small little white lies to me in the Discord before getting underway with the session, saying that the Aston isn't quite as quick as the other cars. Unless it just meant it was in a pure straight line performance, but around the rest of the circuit may have been quicker. You got Smolder there, and one of the other Ligiers also wanting to try and find their way past Andrex relatively soonish, and there you'll see taking to the higher part of the banking to go up around him. Smolder picking up some slipstream. Andrex actually going up there as well, trying to pick up some slipstream off the LMP3s. And Power coming into the bus stop chicane. Currently holding on to P3 at the moment. It's 0.3 of a second faster than his previous lap, which could actually put him into pole position if he has a good run to the racing finish line. So we shall keep an eye on him just to see how he does. He's just shifted up into 6th gear, coming across the line now, and he does pop himself into P1 in the GT4 class. So new benchmarker set for them. Conor McCoy is currently holding 4th position, as you can see there. Dakusa has now just got himself up into 5th. I was going to say that Carlito was holding 5th position. He's currently sat in the pit lane. He will not improve on his lap time. He doesn't have the time to get out on the circuit. Brake check is out there on track in the final minute. So is Marauder. He's still going around in his KTM crossbow. Pushed him. He's currently holding P9 in the GT4 class, with Atlas there in 10th place, and then Nyla in that 2nd KTM crossbow, currently holding last position. So only 22 drivers in the field participating in this race. Bo still out there on track at the moment. He's just about to come across the line to begin his final lap. Does he actually improve this time round? Was he on a hot lap? Didn't seem like he was. 1.5 seconds off his previous best, but he now has this lap to try and improve his lap time and prevent any other drivers from potentially taking away his provisional pole position. We've got Smolder, Marco De Pirate and Bazanchek in 5th, 4th and 3rd position respectively. They're all in the pit lane. They are not going to be partaking in this qualifying session any longer and will not improve their lap times, which is quite important for the battle between Smolder and Bo. At the moment, Bo is going to pick up that 1 point if he does continue to hold his current P1 position all the way to the very end of the session. Where is Aid the Ace on track at the moment? He has just come out onto the oval banking, so he's going round. Logan's also out on track. Empower has lost that provisional pole to Scott. Scott's managed to grab it by 0.2 of a second. Andrex is out on track. He's diving into the pit lane, so he's abandoning his final lap. Let's see where he was, the driver that we were just following. Bo's out there on track. Aid the Ace, he's 0.5 of a second up on his previous fastest at the moment. Bo was in the bus stop chicane. Does he improve on his lap time? We shall see. I don't think we quite caught the sector split for him, unfortunately, but Aid the Ace coming to the line now. Does he improve? He does, and he closes the gap to Bo, but he's not going to take that provisional pole position, so Bo is going to take P1 for the moment, unless Logan, he has finished and completed his lap. Flaming Parrot has actually jumped himself up to 5th position ahead of Smolder. That's even more costly for Smolder in that battle, so Bo has got that 1 point that he needed to equal Smolder, and currently, unless Smolder can finish ahead of Bo in the actual race, Bo will be taking 2nd position in the championship. So let's take a look at the actual standings then, with the LMP3 class. Bo taking pole, as we saw. Aid the Ace in 2nd, Bazanchek 3rd, Marco the Pirate 4th, Flaming Parrot 5th, Smolder in 6th position. He's got some work cut out for him in this race. Logan in 7th, with Aaron 8th, Minisco 9th, Bernetto 10th, and then Jay Peaches in 11th, rounding out the the LMP3 class. GT4s, Scott takes pole to Empower to Andrex, and we shall take a look at the rest of the drivers. So Colonel McCoy qualified in 4th, with Dakuza in 5th, Carlito in 6th position with Breakcheck in 7th, Marauder in the KTM in 8th position with Pushdom in 9th place, Atlas there in 10th place, and then Nyla in the final KTM crossbow there at the back of the grid. So 11 LMP3 cars, 11 GT4s, 22 drivers in total. It's a little bit of a shame. We would have hoped to have seen a few more cars here on the grid, but nonetheless, hopefully all things go well for all the drivers. They have a fantastic and enjoyable final round, and hopefully we can have some good racing action to provide to you guys. So I'll just quickly ask, in this 2-minute period, are quality levels all good in terms of actual audio, with my mic level in comparison to the game audio, and then obviously the actual picture, is it all nice and smooth? Hopefully it is. It hasn't proved to be an issue in the previous rounds. And obviously welcome to everybody in the chat. Let's hear your predictions for who will be taking the race win in both the LMP3 class and the GT4 class. Be interesting to hear your guys' opinions on those. Who are your favourites? And very, very shortly we shall get underway with our coverage here of round 6 of the Apex Online Racing IMSA Lights Endurance Series. So here we go then. The guys actually beginning the in-game formation lap. So they need to drive around the circuit for 1 lap, and then after that 1 lap they will do 1 more lap with the AOR manual rolling start that we usually do, just to make sure that we clear any penalties or anything like that. And if any drivers do pick up any penalties here in this in-game formation lap, providing that they take screenshots of their penalties before they actually go racing, they can present them to the stewards and have their penalties cleared. But providing that everybody stays close to the cars in front, which I imagine they do, there shouldn't be any potential risk of penalties. I believe it's 100 meters that you need to stay within the car in front of you in order to avoid picking up any penalties, and providing that Bo doesn't exceed the speed limit, which is 120 kilometers an hour, he should be all good and fine at the front. So the guys will be doing a little bit of weaving, a little bit of tyre warming, trying to maintain that temperature in their tyres and brakes. This is a 90-minute race that the guys will be doing, so they will need to pit for fuel at some point in this race. I highly doubt that they'll actually need to pit for a new set of tyres. Some drivers may choose to prove me wrong, but I imagine that the LMP3 cars will be racing on the soft tyres. The GT4s, I imagine they'll probably be on the softs as well, depending on what the actual temperatures are like. But with the banking, they should be able to run the softs and cool the soft tyres sufficiently enough before they get to the infield section, which is more medium to low speed corners than anything. So there isn't a huge amount of load going through the actual tyres. But Bo just leading the train of cars through that bus stop chicane, and continuing on as we do. Very, very nice to see the cars under the floodlights. Some very nice lighting here, as we can see. So they formed up into a provisional 2x2 formation. I doubt we're actually going racing. I think we are meant to go and do one more manual formation lap, but we could actually be seeing the actual race start here, as there is a little bit of a gap between the LMP3 and the GT4 cars. Let's see if they do actually go racing here. They do. They get the foot flat to the floor, and we're off and underway. The GT4 cars are actually pretty close to the LMP3, so I won't be able to watch and see how this all plays out between them. Dakuza there with a huge amount of damage to his car already. I think that could just be visual stuff for myself and not actually representative of what damage he actually has. But he's there in 5th position, looking to the inside of Colonel McCoy. A little bit of door rubbing between the two as they come into the International Horseshoe. That is Dakuza up into 4th position at the moment. Things seem to be pretty good and pretty calm between a lot of the drivers. Smolder has already got himself from 6th position up into 4th, 2 positions gained already. So a very good opening lap. He's not too far off the back of Marco de Pirate. 8 the Ace was having a look to the inside of Bo there, coming into turn 6. Not really close enough to actually make the move stick. Let's try and stick with this camera angle actually, so we can see all the cars coming through. As you can see, oh, that was, I think Andrex running a little bit deep there, causing a couple of the other GT4 cars to slow and back up a little bit. Brake check there, kind of under threat a little bit from Nyla, who has got himself up from the back of the grid up into 7th position in class. So he's made 4 positions already on this opening lap. Let's jump back up to the front runners. Marco the Pirate here, going to be our cameraman for the moment, as we can see 8 the Ace and Bo running off into the distance. Just 4/10 of a second between the two. And Marco the Pirate's got a little bit of a gap of about 5 to 6/10 of a second to Smolder behind, but Smolder should be picking up the slipstream on the LMP3 Ligier in front of him. He's not going to be anywhere near close enough for a lunge into turn 1, but Smolder trying to open up the entry into the braking zone, as Marco the Pirate looked very, very wobbly there in the actual braking zone. It's allowed Smolder to close up onto the back of him pretty quickly. You can see he's now there getting pretty close, but it's in and around this sort of distance between the two cars where the dirty air really starts to affect the following LMP3 car. So Aid the Ace still holding that gap to Bo of about 0.3 of a second. Obviously Aid the Ace will want to have some fun and battle on the circuit, but obviously won't want to try and interfere with that battle for second position in the championship. Let's jump back to the GT4 cars with Scott. Small marginal gap of 0.4 of a second between himself and mPower. Andrex is just a little bit closer behind, and Dakuza is there right on the tail of Andrex as well. Let's jump on board with him to see what straight line performance that M3 actually has when it comes to the banking section. You can see the speedo there up on the screen, so we can see the exact speed that he will be doing. Obviously he'll be trying to pick up the slipstream off the cars in front. Shouldn't be too much of an issue for him, and it looks like that Scott is actually going defensive to mPower coming into the bus stop chicane. They'll need to sort themselves out and settle in. Scott braking a little bit early. mPower goes and takes the lead for the moment. Andrex was closing up onto the back of his teammate as well, although that may have been just a little bit too much off the inside for Andrex there, and that may have actually given him a potential slowdown penalty, but it doesn't look like it. He's all over the back of his teammate for the moment, as both Scott and Andrex are trying to look at trying to slipstream and bump draft past mPower. So we're going almost 3 wide towards turn 1. Here comes Dakuza as well. Here is this 3 wide starting to form. No, mPower's hard on the brakes pretty early. The brakes on that Mustang aren't particularly fantastic, and he has struggled with them in previous rounds, so he is the first onto the brakes, and that allows both Andrex and Scott to slip through into second and first position. Andrex coming very close to the back of his teammate there in the braking zone for the International Horseshoe. Dakuza right on the tail as well at the back of these guys. Aid the Ace at the front here in the LMP3, very close to the back of Bo as they're coming onto the back straight on the run towards the bus stop chicane. Just under 0.3 of a second as Aid the Ace presents themselves in the mirror of Bo into the braking zone, but Bo didn't seem phased by that in any way, shape or form, and actually got a better run through the bus stop chicane in comparison to Aid the Ace. Has managed to extend that gap out to about 0.6 of a second. That's what that dirty air does in those high downforce corners. So picking up Flaming Parrot. He's just half a second off of Bizanchik in front of him, and he's got Logan, his teammate, not too far behind, just over a second. So let's jump back to the GT4 battle as Andrex is right on the tail of Scott, his teammate, on the run to the bus stop chicane. He isn't going to have a look though, instead is just going to follow him through. Scott there was a little bit on the grass on the inside. That's probably going to be a slowdown penalty for him. He goes to the high side of the banking. He does drop in behind his teammate. mPower is trying to look past him, but he is forced to go high, the longer route around the circuit. Here comes Dakuza with that slipstream now, trying to pick it up off the 3 cars in front, almost going 3 wide as mPower is going to very defensive to the inside. That's going to block Dakuza's route through. mPower is going to come and take the lead provisionally into the first turn. Will Dakuza or Andrex have a lunge on either side? No. They kind of just settle in for the moment. Oh, there's a little bit of contact there between Andrex and Dakuza. I think, to be fair, that was a pretty fair game between the two of them. But Dakuza coming up and taking second position for the moment, although Andrex comes back at him. Dakuza gives him the room though, sees him coming. Andrex trying to fight back and hold on to that second position. It looks like he's just about got it. Very close between the two. As you can see, mPower's now actually been able to extend a little bit of a gap of about 6-7 of a second to this battle for the second position, and actually Dakuza is under threat from Scott on his inside. Dakuza will have the inside line coming into turn 6 onto the banking though, so that should play advantage to him, but Scott's giving him a little bit of a squeeze there and kind of taking the line away from him, and has managed to get the move done around the outside. Very good stuff there, very good racing between these guys. There is a little bit of door rubbing and panel rubbing there that we saw in turn 1 and also in turn 3, but nothing too major to really upset the guys. But mPower leads Andrex, leads Scott, leads Dakuza for the moment. You can see that. Oh no, Dakuza getting very deep on the brake coming into the bus stop chicane. decides to jump across the grass to try and minimise any potential slowdown penalty that he actually gets, but that's going to put him well off the back of that podium fight that we're seeing. He's now almost 2 seconds off as he's losing the momentum coming onto the banking section. Very unfortunate misjudgment there in the braking zone by Dakuza, but he'll be looking to close that gap back up relatively sharpish. So now we jump back up to Aid the Ace and Smolder as they're coming through Speedway 1 and 2 onto the back straight. They're on the run to the bus stop chicane. We'll probably see once again the demonstration of the lack of downforce in the dirty air. Aid the Ace following Bo through the bus stop chicane, and actually, to be fair, that was a pretty good run coming through the bus stop chicane. He actually managed to hold the speed and carry the momentum through. Still 2 to 3 tenths of a second between these two drivers as they're coming out of Speedway 3 and 4 towards the start finish line. It actually seems that Bo has just a little bit more straight line speed in comparison to Aid the Ace. Was able to eke out a little bit of a gap, although obviously Aid the Ace is now picking up a little bit of a speed advantage with that slipstream coming off the back of the LMP3 car. And these guys haven't actually quite caught the GT4 cars as of yet, as Aid the Ace is closing up once again in the braking zone there. Jumping back to the battle for the final podium position. Third place between Smolder and Marco the Pirate. Marco the Pirate doing a very solid job at the moment, qualifying in third place if I remember correctly. And is currently still holding that position, fending off Smolder for the moment. And Smolder can see these two guys disappearing off into the distance as Aid the Ace has got the inside line coming onto the banking. Bo's going to give him plenty of room. Obviously, Bo will probably be happy to concede the lead and actually just stay on track and stay ahead of Smolder for that fight for second position, but Bo doesn't look like he's actually going to be giving up too much. Picking up a little bit of slipstream there off the back of Aid the Ace. Coming on to this back straight. Will he have the straight line speed advantage? It does certainly seem like he has got that over Aid the Ace and manages to get back in front before they get to the bus stop chicane. There is an Aston Martin there in front of them. That will be it's not Marauder. Who was that? Who was... Oh, we lost a couple of drivers there. We're now down to 17 in total. Not entirely sure who it was we lost, but there was a GT4 car just in front of these guys. We're now down to 16 as well. That's now 15. I think we may potentially be in for a lobby restart here as Bo seems to have backed out. Yeah, he's flashing Aid the Ace, I think, as we've seen a number of drivers drop in relatively quick succession. Andrex is still in, Colonel McCoy's in, so we've lost Empower, we've lost Scott, we've lost Dakuza. So, yeah, we are definitely looking at a lobby restart here, it would seem, which is pretty unfortunate, but I think we had 4 more drivers disconnecting within 30 seconds, which usually kind of counts towards a mass disconnection. So bear with us for a moment, as it seems like a few of the guys are still going around. Some seem to be quitting the lobby, so we shall do that now as well and get ourselves back into a new lobby and hopefully resume the racing action. But so far, Daytona's proving to be a pretty good circuit for racing, as we saw a nice intense GT4 battle there between Scott, Andrex, Dakuza, and also Empower. 4 of them fighting over the race lead in class. Obviously, we saw the LMP3 drivers also in pretty close proximity, with Bo and Aid the Ace going at it for the race lead, and obviously Smolder having a very good start, starting from 6th position, managing to get himself up into 4th position and onto the back of Marco the Pirate within the first lap. Didn't really make too much more headway beyond that over the following few laps, but certainly holding on to the back of him and looking to potentially threaten that 3rd position a little bit more in the over the course of the next few coming laps. But hopefully we'll have the new lobby back up soon, and hopefully we can get back into the action. I imagine what the guys will probably do is they'll probably skip qualifying, as it is now 10 to 9 in the UK, So we've lost a fair amount of time, about 35 minutes already this evening. So we'll probably skip the qualifying, I imagine. I imagine we'll just go straight into the actual race itself, and the guys will just sort themselves out into the positions that they previously qualified in, and then go racing once again, either with an hour and a half or potentially with an hour and 20 minutes remaining, because I think we only did about 10 minutes of actual race time there. So hopefully we can get things underway relatively soon. Hopefully you guys all in the chat are all good and happy. See that we've got King Kodiak in there. Yamo's also there in the chat as well, enjoying the racing action, which is good to see. And it seems like there may be some potential issues with Steam, as I'm not seeing any lobbies at all in my lobby browser, so I think Steam is having a little bit of a funny moment. And everyone across the entire network playing Project Cars have ended up dropping. But yeah, hopefully you guys have been enjoying that. I can see Bo's back into the chat. It's good to see some good racing action between yourself and Aid the Ace. Certainly seems like you have a slight straight line advantage in comparison to Aid the Ace at the moment. But hopefully Steam will come back up and we can get back into the lobby. There's Empire also in the chat now as well. It's good to see that a few of you are still hanging around. I do apologise for these technical issues. Hopefully we can get them, or they can get resolved relatively soon, and we can get back underway as quickly as we possibly can as well. So I do appreciate your patience. I wonder how many seats are actually there in that grandstand in the background of that picture. Wonder if anyone can actually go find that out as well. Actually, see how many seats there are in that main grandstand at Daytona. It is monumental in size. Absolutely fantastic vantage point for watching the racing action at Daytona 24. I haven't actually been there myself as of yet, but it certainly seems like a prime opportunity, a prime position to actually get a really good vantage point of the entire circuit and watch the racing action all the way around. And yeah, Empire, your car is looking good in a straight line. It's just a shame it's a little bit poor on the brakes. Notice that you have to get on the brakes a good 10-15 meters earlier than the Aston Martin. Yeah, you're saying yourself no brakes. Bo's just confirming that we will have a lobby restart relatively soon, and we'll actually have a an hour and 15-minute race. So yeah, pretty much just confirming what I was initially anticipating. Yeah, try hard. I would love to go to Daytona and watch the action there. Both the with the Daytona 24 Hours, obviously part of the IMSA series. It'd be absolutely fantastic to hear the DPI and LMP2 cars go through those turns, and obviously watch the GT field come through as well. Listening to them spin up the wheels a little bit under traction out the exit. Obviously, it's one of those opportunities to get pretty close to the track as well, and not too far away from it when you're in and around on the infield section. That's where we have a lot of guys A lot of the guys tend to camp out. Yeah, no, the Ace, they're confirming that Ginetta's pretty fast down the straights. Did see that slight speed advantage in the Ginetta LMP3's favourite, but it seems like the Ligier seems to be pretty good through the infield section. Although the two cars are near enough identical, I think it's just the aerodynamics and the bodywork from the two cars that are kind of the main contributing factor. As engine power is the same, weight is around the same, acceleration time is pretty much identical as well, so it's pretty much as even as it possibly can be between those two LMP3 cars. It's very much just a case of who has the better setup. Who's running slightly less downforce, lower wing, potentially more rake, or less rake, shall I say. Try and get that car as flat as possible for the banking, and obviously not have the car so low that you are bottoming out on the banking section as well, because that will affect your net top speed when coming across the line. It seems like steam is very much down for me at the moment. Hopefully it will come back up relatively soon though. Has anybody else got Steam working for them, or is it just me that is currently disconnected? And I think we've kind of established that it is an issue with Steam. Other people saying that it's Steam has gone for them as well. So hopefully we can get back up and running, underway relatively soon. I hope everybody's day has been going good so far as well. I had a pretty good day. Can't really talk about it too much though. There's know all the secrets and everything. There's topics that I'm not allowed to talk about as of now. But yeah, final race of the season. It's kind of a shame it's not longer. Has been proved to be a very, very good series. And I've just got a confirmation there in the chat that unfortunately we are going to be postponing this race until next week, as Steam doesn't want to play ball, and yeah, doesn't seem to be coming back up for anyone. So unfortunately we are going to have to end this rather short and brief coverage of round 6 here. We will be back, or should be back, next week for a rerun, hopefully with these technical issues with Steam not happening. Hopefully things will all be better there come next week. But yeah, very unfortunate to hear, but I think, to be fair, it's a pretty reasonable call considering considering how late in the day it is as well. So apologies for you guys that we won't be continuing on with this round, but thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure to turn up next week at 8 o'clock. We'll start the live stream, and at 8:15 we'll get underway once again with the rerun of the final round of the Apex Online Racing Endurance Series. Apologies. Hopefully I'll catch you once again. Thanks for tuning in. In the meantime, have fun, stay safe, and take care.